my name is Buechner. I've been a glassblower since 1975. I've taught a ton of people how to blow glass over the years, and I just want to go over some basic skills that you got to have. Now, one of the skills, of course, for glassblowing is you have to be able to use the jacks, which these are jacks, and you have to be able to block. You have to be able to turn the pipe, keep things on center. You want to practice with purpose. You want to think of it like you're playing an instrument, playing the piano. So anyway, you have to have some basic tools. We're going to have a small block like this one for the inner gather. We're going to have a block like this one for the second gather. And we're going to have a block like this to make the paperweight, okay? So these are our basic tools. All we got is a pair of jacks and 3 blocks. All right, so the first thing, and one of the hardest things about glassblowing, it's one thing that people really struggle with, and I've had kids that have gone to college for this, and they've had a lot of training, and they still can't gather. So one of the hardest things in glassblowing is just to consistently get the glass out of the furnace with a good amount of glass. All right, so my pot in here normally holds 450 pounds of glass, but it's a little low. It's about 2/3 down. So I can't get that much glass, but that's enough to get started. Now we're just going to cool the pipe down a little bit. All right. Now, you always, when you blow glass, one thing you've got to remember is you've got to think of the heat. Glass blowing is all about controlling heat. Now, I'm not in a big hurry to touch the glass, and the reason for that is I don't want to get tool marks all over it. And if I wait a little bit, the air is cooling down the skin. So when you think about it, the inside's retaining its heat because the surface is keeping it warm. Now that it's cooled down a little bit, I don't even have to block it, right? It's ready for the second gather. I just gently stick it in this mold. And again, I don't want to get marks all over, and I only go in one direction, and I don't want to burn my block out. So I just gently do that. This block's putting like this. Anyway, just nice and smooth. Now the skill in glassblowing is your left hand. This is where the real skill is, and the ability to turn that pipe very smoothly and evenly. That's one of the big skills in glassblowing. So all I'm doing is waiting for it until it's the right temperature. Okay, it's a little bit hot still. I don't want it ice cold because then it'll cool down my second gather. But if it's too hot, then my second gather is going to go flopping all over the place. I'm just going to let it get a little colder. Just wait a little bit longer. All right, so now we're going to take the second gather. All right, go back to the furnace. Now this is probably the hardest and most important part of making anything, is getting a good gather. Good even gather, even around the pipe. Right amount of glass, not too much, not too little. I'm going to stay in there for a second just to let that fresh gather, keep that inner gather up a little bit. Because I don't want to waste my time reheating this, okay? And this is just a drill. All I'm doing is giving you a drill now. You see how that gathers pretty even around the pipe? Even then that's not perfect. It could be a little bit more even. Just going to cool this down a little bit. Now, if I touch the block to this immediately, I'm going to get marks from the block. So again, I'm going to wait a second. That's my final paperweight block. It's my initial block. Now, one key with paperweights is you want a nice smooth skin on the surface. So I waited for that to cool down, and I'm going to let this just fall into the block, just like that. That's all I have to do. And now I'm just going to gently work the sides. Okay, just gently. Okay, and now I'm going to take my paperweight block, and you see I'm letting it run out? Letting it run out. And I'm just gently putting that in like that. Now, see, glass blowing, the better glass blower you are, the less you touch the glass, okay? When you're first beginning, people have a tendency to work the glass, work the glass, work the glass. And then once you're skilled, you don't really want to touch it much. Okay, so now we've got our basic paperweight shape. Just going to gently straighten it out. And I'm just waiting. The reason I'm not dipping because I don't want to cool it too much. I don't want any watermarks on it. I just gently cool it down. Now you notice I don't jack much. The reason for that is I don't want tool marks. Now good glass blowers work very hot and they don't touch the glass much. Beginners work very cold and they work the glass a lot. So now I'm actually just waiting now. I'm just waiting. Now I like my paperweights to be really, really round. You know, I like them nice and big and round. So now I'm just going to work the bottom. I'm going to pulling more than squeezing, pulling. Okay. And now I'm just going to chill the top part because I want it more round. And now I'm just going to hold this up in the air. And what we're looking at is the base right here. We're looking for that base. See how it's gotten flat now? And now it's indented slightly. Now that paperweight's finished. Now this is a great exercise right here. It's great at teaching you how to block, how to use the jacks, how to turn the pipe. You know, a lot of times people who learn to blow glass, they're in such a hurry to make more difficult things that they ignore the basics. So just like playing an instrument, you have to really work on your basic skills. And this is a great little drill. It takes 2 minutes to make the post, you know, the beginning part. If you have skill, it takes 3 minutes to make the paperweight. And now I'm just waiting for it to cool down. Again, a lot of the skill is in this left hand. This left hand has to just effortlessly turn that pipe, keep it straight. I'm just waiting for it to cool down. And you'll notice I can't break this up yet because it's still moving. See if I stop turning? That's another skill that you have to have. Is you notice I let that go completely off center, right? You have to be able to get that back on center, perfectly on center, as quickly as possible. And that just takes an insane amount of repetition and practice. So, you know, if you want to learn to blow glass, take a little bit of time, work on your basic skills. Paperweight's a great way to start. And then when you go to blow your object up, you know, the blowing is going to be way better because everything's going to be straight, everything's going to be even. So this is what a great practice drill right here. When I teach glass blowers, you know, I teach glass blowers who work for me. I started from scratch, and this is one of the first exercises that they do. They just practice this. All right, so now I'm going to break this off. And the way I know whether it's ready to break off or not is I don't want it moving or moving much, because I'm not going to get a good break off. Now if we come over here, we have this little pad right here. We have a little kitchen knife that's been kind of beat up. I'm going to use an edge of the knife. I'm going to make a little mark right along there like that. I'm just going to take this little wooden stick, holding it above. I'm going to lightly tap it. I'm going to put this into recycling so we can remelt that. Now we want to get that nice and flat. So we're going to pick this glove up and we're just going to gently get our paperweight so it's level. Now we're going to take our torch. This is an oxygen propane torch. And we're just gently going to work the surface with this torch. Now this takes a little bit of time. You got to be a little patient, but it's way faster than cold working it, you know, grinding it down. So what I'm doing here is I'm moving the torch because this torch can actually bubble the glass. And if you'll notice, there's no tool marks on this at all. There's 0 tool marks. And the reason for that is I barely touch it with the jacks. Get tool marks from working it too much, getting your jacks really, really hot, and then they stick to the glass and they leave marks. So we keep doing this until it puddles, till it's absolutely flat. Can't see any sign that it was on the pipe. Now that's all finished. If you look at the bottom, it's like perfect. It's a perfect paperweight. Now, if I put this in my cooling oven now and I set it down, you're going to get marks all over because it's very, very hot. So I'm going to blow on it gently. And that's going to cool the skin down. And now I can turn it over and I can put it in my annealing oven. And it's going to be perfect. I'm just going to show you one more thing. Because this is just a practice, I probably won't even bother to anneal this. But if I turn it over, you can see what it looks like. So we'll just put it on this for now. That's cold. So we'll just flip this over. Okay. Wipe anything off. Gently put it on that. You see that's just about perfect, right? You see any marks? Or you look at it from the side, it's perfectly straight. So, when you're learning to blow glass, practice making these paperweights. Really great practice drill. Once you get halfway decent at it, you can add all kinds of color work and do all kinds of things. It's a great way. You can make money making them, and then when you go to learn how to really blow glass, you're going to be way ahead of the game.